Since 1996, Gary Dolphin has been behind the microphone for Iowa Hawkeye football and basketball games, and he's seen some amazing moments as our conversation with Gary Dolphin rolls on as we flash back to some of those great Hawkeye moments.
Let's go down some great moments. Let's start with football. I'm sure there's a long list, but if you want to target a game, a special moment where you're like, that was just one of the best days of my life calling Hawkeye football.
Yeah, I apologize because I sure can't give you one. Now, if you ask the fans, it would probably be the end of the Capital One Bowl, the last play of the game, Drew Tate to Warren Holloway, that beat the defending national champion LSU Tigers in the Capital One Bowl back in 2005. A remarkable year for Drew Tate and the Hawkeyes, and I certainly wouldn't rank that up there with my best effort because I learned a valuable lesson that day, Jay. Podolak and I were so upset that Iowa had 2 timeouts left and decided not to use any of them. The clock's ticking down, and while we thought everything was out of kilter ragtag and the Hawks were confused, Drew Tate, Kenny O'Keefe, the offensive coordinator, had things well in hand. They actually had 2 plays called out of the huddle. And now, the fact that it got down to the final play of the game and Iowa only needing a field goal to win the game, and they were at midfield, things seemed to be somewhat of a traffic jam, but Drew knew what he was doing. He pump faked to Clinton Solomon, popped it down the hash mark, and the rest is history. Holloway caught it, and Iowa pulled it out of the fire and won it by 5. Now, it was a great game, a fun broadcast to do. If you're asking me for a favorite, I'll give you one, and it was the 2009 Iowa team that ultimately went to the Orange Bowl and beat Georgia Tech. Iowa was undefeated. I think they were 7-0 or 8-0, 7-0 at that point. And Colin Sandeman had taken a vicious cheap shot hit from a Michigan State defensive back, and Colin, of course, from the Quad Cities, and was on his back, out cold. The body was gyrating, and 2 defensive backs were straddling him and dogging him. Obviously, they didn't understand how bad he was hurt, but he suffered a severe concussion. There was a 15-yard penalty for a late hit, a 15-yard unsportsmanlike conduct penalty. They ejected the defensive back. Iowa was down, I believe they were down 4 or 5 points. They needed a touchdown. Late in the game, about 2 minutes to go from, as I remember, the Iowa 40-yard line. Ricky Stanzi, with no timeouts, put that team on his back. Pat Anger was the defensive leader of that team. Bill Bettendorf Bulldog, like Colin. And Stanzi took the team right down the field. On 4th and goal at the 7, last play of the game, Marvin McNutt on a quick slant had single coverage with the safety, and Stanley drilled him and willed the Hawkeyes to a victory. They were playing for Colin that last drive, and Iowa defeated Michigan State. They would go on to get to 9-0 and then upset by Northwestern at home when Stanzi tore ligaments in his foot, missed the rest of the season, but came back for the Orange Bowl. And, of course, they pummeled Georgia Tech down in Miami. That would probably be because it's the last play of the game, and what a critical victory for the Hawkeyes. So that's a moment I'll always remember.
And that's your sports. We'll be right back.